Felix Okatch, the chairman of the Association of Professional Societies in East Africa and also a multilateral trade expert, now joins us to just have that conversation on that appointment. Thank you very much for joining us here on Bottom Line Africa. Just remarks on the appointment before we begin with the conversation.
Thank you very much for welcoming me in. The appointment is a great achievement. And on behalf, of course, I can't talk on behalf of the government, I'm a consultant, but I think on behalf of our people of Kenya, we congratulate Dr. Okonjo for the appointment. It's a great honor to Africa and the world. I mean, I would have had it, but she's the one, Okonjo is there, so it's good for Africa. Congratulations.
All right, so WTO is at a crossroads after many countries seemed to take a step back from long-standing norms governing international trade. What exactly awaits her as she begins her term?
Thank you very much for that question on what awaits Dr. Okonjo. Mainly is the trade dispute. Because remember, the time when Azevedo was leaving, the trade dispute panel body could not meet because US did not send a representative. So that the dispute between China, US and other countries could not reach the upper level body, But now I think they'll reach. So it's the dispute settlement which is awaiting her. And as she mentioned, she's an administrator, not a trade negotiator. It's hoped that through this administrative work, dispute on trade issues will be resolved going forward.
You know, all this comes at a time when the world is, grappling and fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. How exactly does she need to tackle such issues?
Thank you very much for that question. As she has to tackle those issues. WTO, that's the World Trade Organization, is a body for trade negotiations and trade rules. With the coming of COVID, some rules have been exceptions have been given on the rules. Things like on trips, that means for the fellows who have discovered how to treat coronavirus and other diseases are not charging more. Exceptions have occurred such that now goods moving from developing countries in terms of medicine and the lot, there are waivers. So what's happening is that going forward is that these exceptions are going to assist in trade. Ordinarily, trade is a very important thing for countries. Trade, of course, creates employment, it improves living standards, and expansion of trade is the basis of the formation of World Trade Organization. It was formed in 1995. It was a precursor to General Agreement on Trade and Services. And by the way, when you talk of the World Trade Organization, when you talk of rules on trade, there are rules on trading in goods, rules on trading in services, and intellectual property. Like now, the main issue is intellectual property. Those patenting, copyrights, those are discovered in the medicine, they have to be paid and they have to be patented. So that's the way for what's happening now. And two, in terms of goods moving across, there have to be special waivers on some of these goods against taxes as they enter some of the markets. So these are special things which are coming in the WTO arrangement.
Okay, she said that she doesn't want to see business as usual, as she will need to broker international trade talks in the face of the US-China conflict, also respond to pressure to reform trade rules and counter protectionism. All this amidst a pandemic, as we had mentioned before. But then her being the first African woman being appointed in that position, does it mean more pressure for her as everyone is going to be watching her?
Thank you very much on that question about pressure and the nature of work. The nature of WTO, the pressure cannot be on the individual. The working scenario is that there are countries, member countries, about 107 countries, who are members of the WTO. Every 2 years they have what's called a ministerial conference, where ministers of trade meet and come up with certain policies. And they meet all over the world. Like the 10th ministerial meeting was in Nairobi here a few years ago. Now, at Geneva, at the Secretariat, there's a General Council. The fellow person heading General Council is the Director General, and that's the job which she has taken. And at the Council of Geneva, there's a committee concerned with the disputes and settlements. I just mentioned about dispute between China and US, and they also dispute in many other areas. other countries against one another. Disputes come in terms of taxes being levied at the whole lot. So the department concerned with disputes and settlement. There's a section also concerned with trade policy, because as every country does business, you must conform with certain policies agreed on by members of the WTO. Policies in terms of what taxes you're charging, what waivers are you giving, if it in terms of trading in investment on services, what investments are coming in, if in terms of agriculture, which goods can be bought in one country, which ones cannot be imported. If it is, say, like sanitary and phytosanitary standards, the ones which affect Kenya most is that when you're exporting our flowers to Europe, what standards are they putting in? Are they fair standards or not fair standards? Those are part and parcel of challenges which WTO has, but the Director General is in charge at the committee level.
So then how can the African continent in general use this position to their benefit, especially in implementing the African Continental Free Trade Area?
In many ways, but I'm afraid, from my personal view, I don't think Africa will gain much unless we trade. Because she's there as an individual, administer her work. And also the other 157 member countries with trading blocs who are very strong in terms of trade, in terms of what they need. So for Africa to benefit, we have to make sure we move to the table. But her presence there might not make us be at the table. It's upon ourselves to start trading more, say from East Africa Community level, SADC level, COMESA level, moving to also the Africa Free Continental level. It's us to take advantage of all those trade regimes and move forward. But her presence there might not benefit us directly. In fact, it could be to our disadvantage. There could be cases where if we have to get certain support, technical support, then the other countries would argue that since you have a Director General in Africa, you don't need to be supported. Let's support other countries because you've got a position of a Director General. So it's us to change our thought and make advantage over this. You remember when she has mentioned that she's there, she's not a negotiator, but she's going to create reforms, and reforms is not trade. It's us to take initiative to trade as expected.
All right, finally, even as we conclude, you know that the WTO has a number of issues, one of them being the fact that there are deep divisions over whether rich and poor countries should receive different treatment under global trade rules. What are your thoughts about this?
Thank you very much. About different global trade rules. The rules generally are standardized. But as you negotiate, you ask for special favors. Let me just give a small example on special favor. Take the case of us exporting our horticulture and flowers in the European market. They got certain taxes which they have applied. Now, when they also bring their goods in this country, there are certain taxes, minimum taxes we've agreed upon. Going forward in negotiations, we will come, our negotiators would say that for you to allow our flowers to be more competitive in the market, please give us a special waiver in taxes. On the other hand, they would also come to Kenya and say, in as much as we bring our hardware, our goods to Kenya, also give us special taxes. So these are the trade negotiation rules or negotiation which continue on going forward. And in most cases, any country try to negotiate for your benefit. And Kenya is lucky because we got the we are major exporters of those horticulture and other things to Europe. We also got our representatives in Geneva who represents our interests. And we also got a ministry concerned with the trade in the country. So going forward, we will benefit. But the trade rules are there, but it's true to use them to your advantage. But the bottom line in trading is making sure that your goods and services go to that market. That's when you earn. When you export more goods and services, you earn more. For Kenya, it will increase incomes at home. It will also make the value, exchange rate of the dollar be better for us if we export more.
All right. Thank you very much, Felix Okatch, the chairman of Association of Professional Societies in East Africa and also a multilateral trade expert there, just weighing in on that new appointment by the World Trade Organization, which has appointed Ngozi Okonjo as the Director General. Of course, she says she doesn't want to see business as usual. We will wait and see what exactly happens during her term. But moving on, the man leading an inquiry into corruption during Jacob Zuma's 9 years